The caged stranger Marcus Rivera wiped grease from his hands with a worn rag, surveying the chaos of Nexus Station's main corridor. 3 days hauling medical supplies through the outer rim, and all he wanted was a hot meal and 8 hours of sleep. The station buzzed with its usual mix of traders, miners, and corporate suits, all pretending they belonged in civilized space. A crowd had gathered near the central junction, voices carrying that particular tone of cruel fascination. Marcus had seen enough crowds in his 32 years to know the difference between curiosity and bloodthirst. This one leaned toward the latter. "What's the show?" he asked a passing technician. "Corporate security brought in some kind of alien monster," the man replied, not slowing down. "Been there 2 days now. Real nasty piece of work, they say." Marcus pushed through the crowd, using his height to see over shoulders. What he found made his stomach clench. A makeshift cage sat in the middle of the junction, welded from scrap metal and reinforced with energy barriers. Inside, a figure huddled in the shadows. She was clearly alien, with skin the color of deep ocean water and silver markings that caught the artificial light. Her limbs were long and graceful, but now trembled with weakness. Restraint collars pulsed blue around her wrists and neck. "Look at those claws," someone whispered. Heard she tore apart 6 guards when they caught her. Marcus studied the creature more carefully. Her hands, while different from human ones, showed no sign of the massive claws described. In fact, everything about her posture spoke of exhaustion rather than aggression. "When did she last eat?" he asked the crowd. "Who cares?" a woman responded. "Thing's probably poisonous anyway." A security guard wandered over with an electric prod, jabbing it through the bars just hard enough to make the alien flinch away. The crowd laughed, and Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. "Entertainment's over," the guard announced. "Move along." As people dispersed, Marcus lingered. The alien lifted her head, and he caught sight of eyes like polished amber, intelligent and aware. She looked directly at him for a moment, and he saw something that made his breath catch. Not animal rage or alien menace, but quiet dignity in the face of humiliation. His stomach chose that moment to growl, reminding him of the ration bar in his pocket. Standard issue protein and carbs, nothing fancy, but it was food, real food. The guard had moved away, checking something on his datapad. Marcus approached the cage slowly, crouching down to the alien's eye level. "Hey," he said quietly. She didn't respond, keeping her gaze fixed on the floor. "You hungry?" he asked, pulling out the ration bar. This time, she looked up. Her amber eyes searched his face, looking for tricks or traps. Marcus held up his free hand, palm open. Just food, no catch. He slid the bar through the gaps in the cage. For a long moment, she stared at it. Then her hand shot out, faster than he expected, snatching the food. She devoured it in seconds, not even chewing properly, just desperate to get calories into her system. When she finished, she looked at him again. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice carrying a musical quality despite its weakness. Then she did something that changed everything. She reached through the bars and touched his hand, her fingers cool and surprisingly soft. "My name is Naya," she said. "What are you called?" "Marcus," he replied, surprised by his own honesty. "Marcus," she repeated, like she was tasting the name. "You have shown kindness to a stranger. Among my people, this creates a debt that cannot be easily repaid. You don't owe me anything. Everyone deserves to eat." Her amber eyes brightened slightly. "Your species continues to surprise me. What the hell is going on here?" A voice barked. Marcus scrambled backward as a security team approached, led by a woman in a crisp corporate uniform. Her badge read Dr. Catherine Wells, Xenobiology Division. "Step away from the specimen," she ordered. "Specimen?" Marcus stood, anger flaring. "She's a person, not a lab rat." Dr. Wells smiled coldly. "That creature is classified as a hostile alien entity. Making contact violates about 12 different regulations. Funny, she seemed pretty friendly to me. Mr. Rivera, isn't it?" The fact that she knew his name sent ice through his veins. "You're listed as an independent contractor." That status could change very quickly if you continue interfering with corporate operations. Marcus glanced back at Naya, who watched the exchange with those knowing amber eyes. Everything about this situation felt wrong. The cage, the crowds, the casual cruelty. What did she do? He asked. That's classified. Then how do I know she deserves this treatment? Dr. Wells' expression hardened. Because Helix Corporation says so. Now, walk away, Mr. Rivera, before this becomes a problem for both of us. Marcus looked at Naya one more time. She mouthed a single word. Please. He turned back to Dr. Wells. You know what, Doc? I think it already is a problem. The escape plan Marcus made it halfway to the docking bays before his comm unit started buzzing with priority alerts. The message was brief but clear. Report to security immediately or face detention for interference with corporate operations. Son of a bitch, he muttered. A maintenance worker approached from a side corridor, moving with the casual purpose of someone who belonged there. Middle-aged, graying hair, the kind of person you'd walk past without a second glance. Mr. Rivera, the man said. Name's Torres. Alina Torres. We need to talk. Do I know you? You know someone who needs our help? Torres nodded back toward the upper levels. Docking Bay 7G. 5 minutes. Against his better judgment, Marcus followed. The bay was empty, except for Torres, who was studying a datapad with professional interest. That was quite a show you put on up there, Torres said. I gave someone food. Hardly a show. You gave someone hope. Sometimes that's more dangerous. Torres handed him the datapad. Want to know what she really is? The file was heavily classified, but Marcus could make out the important details. Subject designation, Princess Naya Veltar. Species, Etherian. Status, high-value political prisoner. She's royalty, Marcus breathed. From the Etherian Collective, one of the most advanced civilizations in this sector. Her people have been fighting Helix's expansion for 3 years. The image on the file showed Naya in her natural state, healthy and radiant. Her ocean blue skin had a luminescent quality, and she wore flowing robes that seemed to move with their own internal light. She doesn't look dangerous, because she's not. The Etherians are a peaceful species, focused on art and philosophy. But they sit on some of the richest dilithium deposits in the SCE. Wants their resources. Helix wants their resources. Helix wants everything. Naya was captured during a raid on a diplomatic vessel. They've been using her as a bargaining chip, trying to force her people to surrender. Marcus studied the photo again. Even in the official corporate file, Naya's amber eyes held that same quiet dignity. Why are you telling me this? Because she won't cooperate with anyone else. Won't eat, won't speak, won't even acknowledge that other people exist. Until today? What makes you think I can help? Torres smiled. In Etherian culture, accepting food from someone creates what they call a life bond. It's sacred, indicating absolute trust. She's marked you as worthy of her complete faith. Great. So now what? Now we get her out of there. Before Marcus could respond, alarms started blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors, and the PA system crackled to life. Attention all personnel. Vincent Caruso has been reclassified as a hostile entity. Any person providing aid will be subject to immediate detention. They're using your full name wrong, Torres noted. But the sentiment's clear enough? This is insane. I'm just a supply runner. You were. Now, you're something else entirely. Torres produced a small device from his pocket. This will get you past most security locks. From there, you're on your own. What about you? I'll create a distraction. Give you 10 minutes to reach her? Marcus stared at the device. It felt heavier than it should, weighted with possibilities and consequences. Once I do this, there's no going back. Once they caged her, there was already no going back. The only question is whether you're going to be part of the solution or part of the problem. Through the viewport, Marcus could see the vast darkness of space. Punctuated by the lights of ships moving through established trade routes, somewhere out there was home, Earth. It's a small apartment where the biggest decision was what to have for dinner. but he could also hear Naya's musical voice whispering pleas in the darkness. "Hell," he said, taking the device. The maintenance corridors were darker than the main passages, filled with the hum of machinery and the smell of recycled air. Marcus moved carefully, using the device Torres had given him to bypass security locks. He found Naya exactly where he'd left her, huddled in her cage while a smaller crowd of late-shift gawkers made crude comments about alien anatomy. 2 guards stood watch, both looking bored. Marcus checked his chronometer. Torres had promised a distraction in 2 minutes. Right on schedule. The lights went out. Emergency illumination kicked in immediately, bathing everything in hellish red. The guards began talking urgently into their units while the crowd scattered. Marcus ran to the cage. Naya looked up as he approached, her amber eyes reflecting the emergency lights. "You came back," she said. "Yeah. Well, don't make a habit of it." He examined the lock mechanism. Biometric scanner requiring both handprint and retinal identification. "Can you open this?" "Not alone." She pressed her palm against the scanner. Nothing happened. "But together, perhaps. What do you mean?" "Place your hand over mine." Marcus pressed his palm against hers on the scanner. Her skin was warm, almost electric, and the moment they touched, something shifted in his mind, like a door opening in a room he hadn't known existed. The scanner beeped green. The cage door swung open. Naya stumbled into his arms, lighter than he'd expected. Up close, he could see the marks of her captivity, the places where restraints had rubbed her skin raw. "Can you walk?" "I can run," she said. And there was steel in her voice, despite her physical condition. "Then let's go." They ran through corridors that seemed to shift and change around them. Pursued by the sound of boots and shouted orders, Naya moved with fluid grace despite her weakness, her hand in his providing guidance he couldn't quite explain. "The docking bays are this way," Marcus said. "No," Naya stopped suddenly. "There are guards waiting. 12 of them, 2 levels down." "How do you know that?" "I can sense their thoughts. Your species' minds are quite loud. Telepathy, right? Because this situation wasn't complicated enough already. They took an alternate route through cargo processing, sliding through service tunnels and maintenance shafts. Behind them, sounds of pursuit grew fainter but never disappeared entirely, you know?" Marcus said as they crawled through a particularly narrow conduit. "When I woke up this morning, becoming an interstellar fugitive wasn't exactly on my agenda." Despite everything, Naya laughed. The sound was like music in the darkness. "My people have a saying," she said. "The universe has a sense of humor, but it's usually at our expense. Your people sound wise. Wise enough to know kindness when we see it." Flight through the stars. Marcus's ship, the Wanderer, sat in docking bay 12 like a piece of functional art. Not pretty, but reliable. With enough modifications to outrun most corporate security if necessary. He'd never thought he'd need to test that capability. "She's beautiful," Naya said as they approached the airlock. "She's practical. Beauty's a luxury I can't afford. Function can be its own form of beauty." The Wanderer's systems came online with reassuring efficiency. Marcus strapped himself into the pilot's seat while Naya settled into the co-pilot's chair, studying the controls with obvious intelligence. Nexus control. "This is the Wanderer requesting departure clearance," Marcus said into his com. "Negative, Wanderer. All traffic is suspended pending security operations." Through the cockpit window, Marcus could see security teams setting up around the docking bay. They had maybe 2 minutes before those teams reached his ship. "Hold on," he told Naya. Firing the engines without clearance, the Wanderer lurched forward, breaking free of the docking clamps with a satisfying metallic shriek. Behind them, Nexus Station shrank to a point of light among the stars. "Wanderer, return to dock immediately, or we will open fire." "Nexus control." "Kiss my ass." Marcus cut the channel and pushed the throttle forward. The Wanderer shot toward the asteroid belt, her engines singing with barely contained power. The pursuit came exactly 90 seconds later. 3 corporate interceptors, sleek and deadly. Burning hard on an intercept course, They're faster than us, Marcus said, watching the tactical display. But you know these spaces better, Naya replied. I can feel it in your thoughts. You've flown here many times. The asteroid field stretched ahead of them, a maze of spinning rock and debris that could crush an unwary ship in seconds. Marcus dove into it without hesitation, threading the needle between massive asteroids with the casual skill of someone who'd done this dance before. The interceptors followed, but they were built for open space, not precision flying. One of them clipped a chunk of debris and spun out of control. Two left, Marcus muttered, pulling the Wanderer through a particularly tight passage between rotating asteroids. Plasma bolts streaked past the cockpit, close enough to make the hull plates glow. Naya reached over and placed her hand on his arm. There, she said, pointing toward a deep crater in a massive asteroid. Safety. Marcus didn't question how she knew. He cut the engines and let momentum carry them into the crater, using thrusters to settle against the rocky surface. Then he powered down everything except life support. The remaining interceptors swept past, their sensors unable to penetrate the asteroid's mineral composition. After 10 minutes of fruitless searching, they gave up and returned to Nexus Station. How did you know? Marcus asked. Your mind showed me. When you touched my hand earlier, something changed. We're connected now, in a way I don't fully understand. Marcus looked at her, really looked. In the soft glow of the emergency lighting, Naya's ocean blue skin seemed to shimmer. Her amber eyes held depths he was only beginning to appreciate. What does that mean? Connected? Among my people, it's called Velthera soul-touching. It's rare even between Etherians. I've never heard of it happening between different species. Is it permanent? I don't know. She moved closer, her presence both alien and oddly comforting. Do you want it to be? The question hung in the air between them, loaded with implications Marcus wasn't sure he was ready to face. Instead, he focused on practical matters. We need to get you somewhere safe. Do your people have any outposts in this sector? No. The war has pushed us back to our home systems. But there are others who oppose Helix's expansion. The Resistance. You know of them? Torres mentioned something. Said they've been fighting corporate expansion for years. Naya closed her eyes, concentrating. There's a signal, very faint. A safe haven, perhaps 3 days from here. Can you navigate us there? With your help? Yes. The connection works both ways, Marcus. I can sense your knowledge of these space lanes, and you can access my navigational abilities. It sounded like science fiction, but then again, everything about the last few hours had been impossible. Marcus powered up the Wanderer's engines and set course for open space. As they left the asteroid belt behind, Naya settled back in her seat. Her earlier weakness seemed to be fading, replaced by a quiet strength that Marcus found oddly reassuring. Tell me about your world, she said. Earth. It's crowded, polluted. Most people spend their lives working jobs they hate for corporations that don't care if they live or die. He paused. But it's also beautiful in ways that are hard to describe. Sunsets over the ocean. The smell of rain on hot pavement. Music that can make you cry or laugh or fall in love. You sound homesick. I am sometimes. But out here, I'm free. No bosses, no schedules, no one telling me what to think or how to live. Freedom is precious, Naya said. My people fought 3 wars to preserve ours before Helix came. What's your world like? Her expression softened. Etherios is a water world, with floating cities that move with the currents. The architecture grows, rather than being built, shaped by artists who work with living crystal. Music is everywhere, carried on the winds between the spires. It sounds incredible. It was. Helix bombardment has destroyed much of what we built over millennia. That's why they captured me. To force my people to surrender rather than see their princess suffer, Marcus felt anger flare in his chest. We won't let that happen. Naya smiled, and it transformed her entire face. I like the sound of that. The Wanderer flew on through the darkness, carrying 2 unlikely allies toward an uncertain future. Behind them, the corporate hunters would be regrouping, planning their next move. Ahead lay dangers Marcus couldn't even imagine. But for the first time in years, he wasn't alone. And somehow, that made all the difference. Sanctuary and Secrets, the Resistance base, was hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid. Its entrance so well camouflaged that Marcus might have flown past if not for Naya's telepathic guidance. The docking bay was larger than he'd expected, filled with ships of every description from sleek fighters to massive cargo haulers. "Welcome to Haven Station," Lena Torres said, meeting them at the airlock. She looked different here, more relaxed, wearing practical coveralls instead of maintenance worker disguise. "How was the flight?" "Educational," Marcus replied, helping Naya down from the ship. She'd grown stronger during the journey, but still moved with careful deliberation. Princess Naya Torres bowed slightly. "It's an honor." "I'm sorry it took us so long to find you. The honor is mine, Elena Torres. Marcus has told me of your people's struggle." Torres led them through corridors carved from living rock. Past workshops where technicians modified weapons and communication arrays hummed with encrypted transmissions. The base buzzed with purposeful activity. "How many of you are there?" Marcus asked. "Here. Maybe 200. Across the sector, a few thousand. Not enough to fight Helix directly, but sufficient to make them uncomfortable." They passed through a communal area where people of a dozen different species shared meals and conversation. Marcus noticed how conversations paused when they saw Naya, then resumed with increased intensity. "Word travels fast," Torres noted. "News of your escape has already reached the outer systems. It's given people hope." "Hope is dangerous," Naya said. "It makes people take risks. Sometimes risks are necessary. Your quarters are this way." The room Torres showed them was simple but comfortable, with 2 beds and a small sitting area. A viewport looked out into the asteroid field, where ships moved like fireflies in the darkness. "I'll leave you to rest," Torres said. "Dinner's in 2 hours if you're interested." When they were alone, Marcus sat heavily on one of the beds. The events of the past day were finally catching up with him. "This is really happening," he said. "I'm actually part of an interstellar rebellion." "Regrets?" Naya asked, settling beside him. "About helping you? Never about everything else?" He shrugged. "My life was simple before. Boring, but simple. Simple can be overrated." She was sitting close enough that he could smell her skin, a subtle fragrance like ocean air and exotic flowers. The connection between them hummed with low intensity, carrying emotions and half-formed thoughts. "Can you turn it off?" he asked, the telepathic link. "I could try. Do you want me to?" Marcus considered it. The mental connection was intimate in ways he wasn't used to, but it was also comforting. For the first time in his adult life, he wasn't truly alone. "No," he said. "I was just curious." Naya smiled and moved closer, until their shoulders were touching. "Among my people, Valthara is considered sacred. It's said to occur only between souls that are meant to find each other." "Meant to find each other?" "Destiny, fate, whatever term you prefer. The universe has a way of bringing together those who need each other most." Her hand found his, fingers intertwining naturally. Her skin was warm and soft, the texture unlike anything he'd experienced. "I've never believed in destiny," Marcus said. "What do you believe in?" "Hard work, determination, making your own luck." He paused. "At least I used to, and now." "Now I'm not sure about anything," Naya turned to face him fully, her amber eyes reflecting the starlight from the viewport. "May I show you something?" Before he could answer, she placed her other hand against his temple. The world exploded into color and sensation as her memories flowed into his mind. He saw Etherios as it had been before the war. Floating cities of living crystal that sang in harmony with the wind. Vast libraries where knowledge was stored in crystalline matrices that pulsed with their own inner light. Gardens that floated free in the ocean, tended by artists who shaped beauty from living matter. He felt Naya's childhood. Surrounded by music and learning, preparing for a role she never wanted as princess of her people, her first glimpse of the stars, wondering what other forms of life might exist among them. Then came the war. Helix ships appearing without warning, their weapons turning crystal cities to dust. The desperate evacuation of civilians. The terrible decision to abandon millennia of culture to save lives. Her capture came as a flash of pain and terror, followed by months of imprisonment and interrogation. The slow realization that her people were losing, that her sacrifice might be for nothing. And finally, a moment of impossible hope when a strange human offered her food without asking anything in return. The vision ended, leaving Marcus gasping. Naya's hand was still pressed against his temple, her amber eyes full of unshed tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to overwhelm you. It's okay." His voice was rough. "I needed to understand." "Understand what?" "Why this matters. Why you matter," she smiled through her tears. "And do you understand?" Instead of answering with words, Marcus cupped her face in his hands and kissed her. Her lips were soft and warm, tasting faintly of exotic spices. The mental connection between them flared, carrying emotions too complex for language. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. That was Naya began. "Yeah," Marcus agreed. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching ships move through the asteroid field. The weight of their situation pressed down around them, but for this moment, they had found something worth fighting for. "What happens now?" Marcus asked. "Now we rest. Tomorrow, we plan. Torres says there's intelligence that could help us strike back at Helix. And after that," Naya's smile was answer enough. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Love across the void, the Helix fleet arrived at dawn, if dawn had any meaning in the depths of space. 18 ships, including 3 heavy cruisers, their hulls gleaming with corporate logos that had become symbols of oppression across the outer systems. "How did they find us?" Marcus asked, watching the tactical display in Haven Station's command center. "They've been tracking us since Nexus Station," Lena Torres replied grimly. "We knew this day would come eventually. Can we evacuate?" "Not with this many ships. Our fighters can buy time, but against that kind of firepower." She shrugged. "We make our stand here." Naya stood at the center of the command center, her presence both calming and energizing the mixed crowd of rebels. Her recovery had been remarkable, the strength returning to her movements, the luminescence to her skin. "There is another way," she said quietly. All conversations stopped. Everyone turned to look at the Etherean princess. "I can contact the fleet directly. Offer to surrender myself in exchange for your safety?" "Absolutely not," Marcus said immediately. "It's the logical choice. They want me, not you. If I give myself up, they'll have no reason to destroy this place." "They'll destroy it anyway," Torres said. "Helix doesn't leave witnesses." "Then what do you suggest?" Before Torres could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The tactical display lit up with incoming missiles, dozens of them, streaking toward the asteroid base. "All fighters launch," Torres commanded. "Defensive pattern Alpha." The command center shook as the first missiles impacted the station's shields. Emergency lighting flickered, and somewhere in the distance, Marcus could hear the sound of hull breaches being sealed. "The shields won't hold for long," a technician reported. "How long do we have?" Naya asked. "Maybe 20 minutes. Naya closed her eyes, concentrating. "There's something else. I can feel it through the mental link. A presence I recognize." "What kind of presence?" "Another Etherean." On the flagship, her amber eyes opened, bright with sudden understanding. "My brother, Prince Kale, is alive." The tactical display shifted as one of the Helix cruisers moved forward, separating itself from the main fleet. A communication request came through on all frequencies. "Unknown rebel station. This is Captain Morrison of the HCS Dominion. You are harboring stolen corporate property. Surrender Princess Naya immediately, and we'll consider letting the rest of you live." Torres looked at the communications array. "What do you want to tell them?" "Patch me through," Naya said. "Princess, trust me." The channel opened, carrying Naya's voice to the corporate fleet. But she didn't speak in standard. Instead, she used the musical language of her people, her words carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate through the station's hull. The response came immediately. Another voice speaking Etherean with obvious joy and relief. Brother and sister, reunited across the void by the accident of war. He's alive, Naya whispered, tears streaming down her face. They told me he was dead. The conversation continued for several minutes, too fast and complex for the translation software to follow. Finally, Naya switched back to standard. Captain Morrison, I have a counterproposal. Single combat between champions. If your champion wins, I surrender myself willingly. If mine wins, you withdraw and leave these people in peace. There was a long pause before Morrison's voice returned. What assurance do I have that you'll honor the agreement? The word of a princess of Etherios, given before witnesses of both our peoples. And who is your champion? Naya looked directly at Marcus. Marcus Rivera of Earth. Marcus started. You are my bondmate, Naya said in the ancient ceremony tongue, my heart chosen. By the laws of both our peoples, you have the right to stand for me. Implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. Bondmate. Heart chosen. She was asking him to be more than her. Champion she was asking him to be her life. Partner? Princess? He said quietly. Are you sure? I have never been more certain of anything. The communication channel crackled with Morrison's response. Very well. Single combat in neutral space. 1 hour to prepare. As the channel closed, Marcus found himself surrounded by rebels, offering advice, weapons, and encouragement. But all he could focus on was Naya, who had just publicly declared her love for him in front of 2 fleets. You know I might lose, he said. You won't. How can you be so sure? She smiled, and in that smile was all the confidence of a species that had survived 3 wars against impossible odds. Because you're fighting for something worth winning. An hour later, Marcus found himself in the Wanderer's cockpit, facing off against a sleek Helix fighter in the open space between the fleets. The engagement was supposed to be but Marcus had been in enough fights to know that accidents happened. Remember, Naya's voice came through the comm, carried by their mental link as much as the radio. This isn't about skill or technology. It's about will. About who wants victory more? The Helix pilot was good, Marcus had to admit. Professional, precise, probably trained at some corporate academy where they taught you to fight by the numbers. But Marcus had learned to fly in the asteroid belt, where hesitation meant death and creativity was the only thing that kept you alive. The battle was brief but intense. Marcus used every dirty trick he'd learned in 3 years of hauling freight through dangerous space. When it was over, the corporate fighter was disabled but intact, his pilot alive but defeated. Well fought, Captain Morrison's voice came through the general channel. The agreement is honored. We withdraw. As the Helix fleet pulled back, Marcus returned to Haven Station to find Naya waiting in the docking bay. She ran to him as he disembarked, throwing her arms around his neck with such force that it nearly knocked him over. I knew you would win, she whispered against his ear. Did you? Because I wasn't so sure I had faith. In you. In us. He pulled back to look at her. About what you said out there. The bondmate thing. Regrets? She asked, echoing his question from days earlier. About fighting for you. Never? About everything else? She waited. Amber eyes patient and understanding. Ask me again in 50 years. Her laughter was like music in the artificial atmosphere of the docking bay. Around them, rebels cheered and ships powered down from combat readiness. In the distance, the corporate fleet was already disappearing into hyperspace. So what happens now? Marcus asked. Now we rebuild. Your people and mine working together. The Resistance and the Etherian Collective, united against corporate tyranny. And us. Naya smiled and kissed him, soft and warm and full of promises. We write our own story, Marcus Rivera of Earth. 1 word at a time. Above them, stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, indifferent to the small dramas of mortals. But in a hollowed-out asteroid in the depths of space, 2 souls from different worlds had found something worth fighting for. Love, as it turned out, was the greatest rebellion of all. The end.